You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello, this is Force 13 Live. It's currently 1 AM UTC. We're tracking Tropical Storm Bret and the system in the Gulf of Mexico, as we have been doing for, I think, 4 hours now. And we're remaining with you for at least another one. I don't know when we're going to finish streaming. We're going to be here indefinitely for the time being, whilst Bret makes its approach to Trinidad and Tobago, and it looks to me as though it's going to make landfall in just over an hour's time. There are tropical storm warnings in effect for, of course, Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Venezuela and some other locations too, and of course in the United States we have tropical storm warnings in Louisiana, and obviously flooding is a concern in both of these locations. Let's bring in the Skype team. There's 5 people here right now. Whoever speaks first wins.
Hi.
It's Hank. Hello Hank, how are you? You're back.
Yeah, I'm good. I just had to go take a quick dinner break.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Oh no.
During the last half hour or so, we've been looking at the Trinidad and Tobago radar, and would you agree with us that convective burst that has just happened on satellite, you can see it corresponding with the radar, that's the center of the storm?
I can't tell because I can't see the radar.
Oh. Well, if you're able to see the live stream, you could see it. But if you look...
yeah. Yeah, that's probably the center. I mean, let's see. You got northerly inflow on the eastern side and southerly inflow on the western side. So yeah, that's probably the center.
The NHC photo page for Bret's being stupid.
Explain.
Well, John, let me give you a link to something. I'll probably help you.
Was it RAM?
What?
Is it RAM?
Better.
Whilst they're sorting things out over there, if you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, do start your message with Force 13 in the chat section, and we'll of course reply. But yeah, you know, a lot of people are talking about what is being experienced on Trinidad and Tobago right now. Very inclement weather, winds picking up, probably tropical storm force winds there by now, right?
I'm stuck with using the GIFs for Bret on. I can't believe I just said Bret. I'm just like, what did it say? That was stupid of me. One of those days. I have to use the GIFs because all the HTML pages are not working because for some reason the NHC page is glitching where it's reloading every 5 seconds and redirecting me back to the order page. So the best.
Yeah, I noticed that too, John.
Oh, right. Yeah. So something's going on there.
I'm having no issues on my end.
Yeah, Normie, well, I think there's still a lot of confusion going on over this whole potential tropical cyclone business.
I personally think it's what the NHC chose to do. I mean, to have an opinion on it is just, I don't know. It's really weird because one thought side of me thinks it's a good idea to help get warning times earlier. But another side of me is it's going to frustrate media forecasters and people on live stream like us, and as well as frustrating the common person.
Well, we're not going to get in the way of this going on, but why don't they just overhaul the whole thing and just, if you ever get this potential tropical cyclone thing, why don't you just name it?
Well, because sometimes they're not legitimate tropical cyclones.
Well, why don't they just change the whole convention? Just name everything they see that might form into a tropical cyclone. Make it a lot easier.
Like, name that cloud over there.
Well, then we'd have 10 colons a season. But here's the issue.
Well, we would, but how else are we going to get around this thing?
I don't know. I mean, it was a good idea, but so far it's been executed pretty poorly. Because there's so much confusion surrounding it.
I'm hoping
Go ahead.
I'm hoping it's just a dry run, to be honest, and hopefully it only lasts this season. Because do you think the public is going to believe a potential tropical cyclone?
Public won't believe anything. Like,
Yeah,
they will.
exactly.
True. They usually have their minds set
I
before
mean-
the storm even comes, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that if there's potential, it's going to happen. But, and this is an accurate term, but the public usually more or less thinks I must be honest, about maybe 50%, maybe a good chunk of the public does not know what a tropical cyclone really is, more or less, in this neck of the woods in the United States, because a lot of people I've talked to, they only know tropical storm or hurricane. That's it.
Well, it's the same thing.
Exactly. But people don't know that it is the same thing.
Well,
Is the problem.
It's worse over here. People can't distinguish between a hurricane and a tornado in the UK.
Oh.
It's true. It's true. Honest.
You must. Well, I thought we had it bad over here, where people think, "Oh, that's a hurricane in the middle of January."
Well, they're canceled.
2016, anyone?
Well, yes, Alex, but that was clearly tropical. But
by
there
the
are
way,
people that looked at a low and said, "Oh, that's a hurricane." Like, no, it's not.
It appears that pretty much all the severe weather has now gone from the US East Coast.
Yeah, the kind of storms over here fizzled. We just got rain, lots and lots of rain over here.
I'm looking at whatever visible imagery I can find of the very last moments of PTC3. Ugh. And the very last visible frame I can find shows, looks like the two centers might have just merged.
Well, at least we don't have a
Do you have
colon
any imagery?
situation.
I will try to pull it up.
Yes, please.
It might be a little bit difficult considering that, well, it's night. So,
Hey, Hank, try this.
1 second, John. No, John, I already got it. Don't worry. The thing with that floater is it's not very detailed, and I find the Go 16 floater so much easier for me personally.
Well, I can't figure out how to use the Go 16 floater very well.
You just click on. I'll teach you later, but anyways, apart from that, let me just pull this up really quick.
Let me guess, it's better resolution.
If it's the same one you had before,
better.
it was pretty good.
Oh, there we go.
If I'm being honest, I'm stupid, and it's a trick. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yes, it would appear that is indeed. They're still spinning around each other.
Yeah, they're getting close.
Do you have
They
infrared on that?
Well, the infrared's
Yes.
not going to pick up that really, though, is it?
Yeah, they're not going to pick it up, but what it will do, in fact, water vapor will probably be a better option here.
Could be.
So, let's just try this really quick. See if this actually does anything. Okay, so it doesn't really detail the center very well.
No, not at all.
Water vapor tends to do that because it's more or less of a mid-level shot.
But you can just about see that northern curve that we mentioned earlier, Hank. Any
Yeah.
New thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just about to mention that the curve that I mentioned could be the telltale sign that this thing is actually getting its act together, and who knows, we might see Cindy by morning. We might still see freaking PTC3 by morning. Or who knows at this point. Models are still insisting that this becomes a subtropical storm, actually, and hits Texas. So, go ahead.
A subtropical storm wouldn't be an incorrect term to use here. I mean, it's a pretty broad circulation. And, I mean...
I'm sorry. My bad.
I'm just saying it's an accurate term since the circulation is pretty broad and the wind field seems to be pretty displaced from the center.
Well, the circulation really isn't too broad. It's the fact that its wind field is just going to be so spread out, and all the convection is likely to be separate from the center.
I mean, it's not too broad where it's like a upper level low. I'm just saying it's broad in the sense that it's a lot bigger than your typical tropical storm wind field.
Yes.
I was just saying that. Compared to that, it's a bit
I
broad.
understand what you're saying. This is not like Colin, though. That's a completely different storm, even though
Yeah,
a lot of
Goodness me.
Let's not bring it up.
have been drawn between the two storms, and I think the similarities will end pretty much immediately, because this thing is not moving towards Florida first off, and it's looking a lot better second off. And
it's
this is a storm.
It's in a lot less sheer than Colin was.
One or two people speculating on when they think Cindy will form. Someone said, I think 18 hours. Someone said 6 hours or so.
It doesn't matter when it forms. What matters is that this is going to bring a lot of rain and a lot of problems to this area in eastern Texas, all of Louisiana, and the coasts of Mississippi, Alabama, as well as western Florida. It's going to bring some potentially dangerous amounts of rainfall that can cause some serious flash flooding in these areas, as well as some rip currents and coastal flooding that can also cause damage to coastal property. And it's not your typical, classic tropical cyclone, but it is your typical classic June just disaster. It's a mess.
It's June. It's classic in the sense that you see this in June. It's the organization is typical for June. The look is typical for June. It's this organization. Thank you. It just screams June, but you know what doesn't scream June? Tropical Storm Bret.
Yeah.
Okay, Bret is the sixth storm to form in the main development region since 1851. It's the sixth because there was one towards the
we're not
northeast.
going to have an argument about this now, are we?
There was one that was northeast of Cape Verde. I can't remember which year it was in. There was two depressions, one in 2003, one in 2000. Tropical Storm Ana in 1979, and the Trinidad hurricane of 1933.
Oh, I'm getting my numbers. I got my numbers mixed up. I'm sorry. I was thinking of June hurricanes where there were 6 in the Gulf and 1 outside. Sorry, I was mixing my numbers up. Don't worry.
All June hurricanes. Okay.
It's fine, John. Don't worry about it.
Well, we're looking at the latest satellite imagery now. That flare-up is still continuing there, and it's just about reaching the southeastern tip of Trinidad, and a lot of heavy weather still in the area as well. And even as far as Barbados, I think there will still be some possibly significant rainfall, and as far north as St. Vincent as well. Maybe to St. Lucia, I doubt. But the main areas, the north coast of Venezuela, under the tropical storm warning, Trinidad and Tobago, and Grenada.
All right, let me just pull up the infrared floaters for Bret. And that's pretty far out, so let me zoom in a little bit more. So this is how Bret is looking at the moment. So yeah, that's a pretty healthy, effective flare up. I'm just gonna slow it down just a little bit. That's a pretty flare up, like right by Trinidad.
That's right.
This thing could be intensifying, like this thing could be probably more than 40.
Has the look about it. I'm trying to think of a particular storm that's done it. Probably on one of the Himawari pictures. One of those West Pacific developing tropical storms that you sometimes see. That have flare-ups like that.
The look of this storm reminds me of Earl of 2004. Like this picture right here. That looks really similar to Earl.
So you're saying it could be gaining some steam here?
Well,
it's
Earl
not going to last.
Yeah, Earl
of course.
Also died in the Central Caribbean, so
it's got a real S shape in that last frame.
Yeah, it's got 2 outflow channels. That is something that is...
Did you mean Tropical Storm Earl of 04?
Yes. And, that was a little bit farther north, I think, but...
And that was in August, too.
Hmm?
That was in August, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just the similar look. I mean, not saying that it was anything like this storm, because last time we had a storm like this at this time of year hit this area was 1933. So it's been quite some time since a storm like this has happened, and the 1933 Trinidad hurricane is probably a lot worse than this will be, but it's still
looking like it's making a beeline for Trinidad.
It's pretty much hitting Trinidad right now.
Yeah, it's a direct hit, effectively.
It absolutely is. A lot of the viewers are saying that they're feeling the effects, and we saw that breaking news item just at the end of the hour. I don't know if I think we may as well repeat that if David's here, David. If people missed that.
Elderly person is currently in hospital after being trapped in his house due to the severe weather on Tobago.
I saw a picture that house appeared to have collapsed, at least partially.
Yes.
Well, you gotta also consider that houses in this area are probably not as well constructed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like that in a bad way. I'm just saying it objectively. Because some of these countries' GDPs are not as high as per se maybe more areas in Northern Virgin Islands, which are more experienced, which are more used to this type of thing.
Well, certainly that argument is valid, if nothing else, that Trinidad doesn't often get storms like this, particularly a landfalling one.
Let alone in June.
In June.
And in June, to speak in June, this has got to be a first.
It's not.
Recorded. Oh, you get the point.
The second.
Was the one? There was a Trinidad one in June as well, in 1933.
Yeah. Another interesting stat that I found, and that is that if we were using this current naming system by some chance in 1933,
oh boy,
the Trinidad hurricane would have also been named Bret.
Oh, for goodness sake!
Oh.
Yeah, so if we really want to use that, then there have been 3 Brets that have hit this area.
Oh dear.
I know.
Well,
I'm sorry, I got bored. Just thought
you
of
must
that.
have been quite bored. If anyone's got any comments or questions for us, do send them in at any time. We'll respond, as long as you're watching us live. I know that some people watch us after the fact, but if you are watching us live, then that would be much helpful. And post in the post in the chat section there. Is Cesar still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, anything you'd like to add at this point?
Well, I just want to confirm that Bret has now made landfall.
You think? Well, I don't think so.
Not yet.
I think it is now overland. Well, practically.
Well, you look at the radar. We're talking about the thing we were talking. What we were talking about last hour, Cesar.
No, right now.
No, but in the last hour we were talking about that flare-up and what's underneath it on the radar imagery. It still hasn't reached land yet.
Yes, it's on the land. I can see it.
This storm is just...
Well, of course, its influence is being felt on land, but it's not an actual
clicking
landfall.
the land. It's not fully on the land yet, but it's clicking it.
It depends whose definition you use.
Confirmation?
Well, there's no radar confirmation, but
the centre's not on yet.
No, indeed. That's what I usually classify as a landfall. It's what we ought to. Yeah. But the what contains the centre, that big central core of thunderstorm activity there and heavy rainfall, as you can see on the radar imagery, is just
dense overcast.
Just about to reach overland now. Bearing in mind this imagery is just a few minutes out of date. It's going to get pretty bad, or the worst it could possibly get, in southeastern Trinidad in the next 15 to 30 minutes, I should imagine, and possibly beyond.
I'd love to see another recon run. I don't think we're going to get another recon run tonight, but I'd love to see what the heck's going on. I want to know for sure. No recon, no. I just want to know for sure if this thing intensified at all. It looks like it has slightly. I'm just not sure by how much. Is the thing.
Yeah, probably intensified somewhat. It's probably at least 45 miles an hour right now.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks really good actually. It looks like it's really got its act together. Doesn't look like shear is impacting it that bad, unless you can tell me otherwise.
All the shear is located to the north, but the trough that's supposed to shear it to death is beginning to slow down somewhat in the central, or just north of the Central Caribbean. It's just north of Hispaniola right now, and it should begin to come to a complete halt. And then Bret will not come to complete halt. Keep moving. It'll run right into that wall of shear and, well, die.
So, how much longer do you think it'll hang on? Like maybe another 12 hours or so?
Longer than that. Probably. One second. Let me just bring up my forecast cone that I had up earlier. Let me just see if I can find it on my desktop. I saved it there. This is it. So this is the forecast cone that I made, and I'm thinking that it's probably going to hang around a little bit longer. Knowing the NHC's tactics, it's probably it's still I can't speak. It's still difficult to say.
Yeah,
I think this might be though.
Right? You think it's conservative?
A little bit.
I'm surprised you think that. Yeah, I'm surprised you think that's conservative. I mean, in my opinion, that differs substantially from the NHC cone. The NHC cone has that thing die out at 21 Z mark.
Well, and I have it at a depression, so.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, can we have a comparison to the NHC cone? I'm just curious what it looks like and sit next to it.
It's pretty identical. I mean, I made this. I mean, bearing in mind, I made this about like 3 hours ago, so it's probably doesn't reflect my exact opinions right now. In fact, I'd probably say this tropical depression period is probably a remnant low. But
it looks very similar to the NHC cone. My bad. According to the cone, most of the wind extent is to the north. Here's the north of the center. Most of the wind.
It's being assisted by the trade winds. That's what you typically expect with these systems. Even though the trades aren't that strong right now, any wave like that, any newly developed tropical storm in this area is going to be assisted by the trades before it can get a chance to organize, which the storm will not get because of A, shear, B, land interaction, and C, dry air by the time we get into late tomorrow.
The winds are extending towards the north at about 80 miles or so, which isn't enough to get to Grenada, by the way, from Trinidad and Tobago.
It's a very compact system.
Yep.
It's been that way for a while. So the NHC expected to maintain 40-mile-per-hour intensity, it appears.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think it was probably going to hit 45 at one point or another. But, you never know. I mean, it might hit 45 in the next advisory. Who knows? In fact, I'd probably expect that.
What I want to know is, like, what Bret looks like on the webcams over there. Because I know there's some webcams over in I forgot what it was, Trinidad. I don't know why it escaped me, but I wonder what it looks like on webcam. I would imagine it's probably starting to get rainy over there. I don't know if anybody has any webcams on there. I sent some links to Caesar. So
I think we'll struggle to get any decent webcam there, bearing in mind it is nightfall now as well.
Well, I'm getting Trinidad, Colorado webcams, and that's not what I want. So.
Lol. Well.
Yes.
I guess.
But don't worry. Don't worry. We have our reliable viewers who keep telling us the latest that's going on over there, and we do appreciate hearing everything that everyone's reporting so far.
I gave some links. I gave some links to games for the webcams, and I don't know if he could share them for you, link them to you, so you can look at them, put them up on screen share. Games.
Well, it's a luxury if we do get to see webcams of what's going on to paint the picture, but at least we do have the satellite picture and the live or near live radar over the course of time, which can often paint a picture that you can't see on the ground indeed. And this is the latest radar now. Let's just see if there's actually a new picture. Yes, there is. So let's take a look at the latest. This is the latest radar picture. It's just cycling through properly now, and that's very curious, those latest frames, guys. If you're looking at the stream right now, would you say that the center of the storm is that little indented part to the south of that blob of rain?
It probably is.
And that is...
I'd agree, yeah.
And
if it's cycling from east to west to the north of it, then that's
going west northwest. And that's barely 10-15 miles off land now. And that was as of... The last picture was 7 or 8 minutes ago. 8 minutes ago that was, so it's almost up to date. And if you extrapolate its movement, which we think is something like, what, 25 miles per hour? Is it still?
I'd say next week, yeah, it's still, I'd say it's gone about maybe 5 or so miles.
So on that logic, about half an hour. But it looks like... Until landfall, yes. So, but the southeastern part of the island there is about to get hit by some pretty nasty conditions, you'd imagine, near the center of this cyclone.
I'm sorry, I overestimated, like, maybe 3 miles. It's moved. My bad.
Well, yeah. It's got about something like 15 miles to go. Well, bearing in mind it's like that, maybe 10 miles to go. And if it's moving 25 miles an hour, half an hour or so.
My basis is that I know that you get at 60 miles an hour, you get a mile a minute. At this speed, which is about a little less than half, you get a mile every 2.5 minutes, because I'm every 2 in like minutes and 10 seconds. So, extrapolating that out, it's gone about 4 miles in the last 8 minutes.
Okay, interesting. But looking at that, it looks like it's going to make landfall very soon.
Yeah.
You're watching Force 13 Live. It's nearly 1:30 UTC, and would anyone like to go through the warnings for us on both of these cyclones?
I'll do so right now. Let me just pull up my screen share quickly. So I'll first go through Bret, and then I will go through PTC3. That is a horrible name, my gosh.
It really is. Okay,
a tropical storm warning is in effect for Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, as well as Venezuela from Pedernales to Cumana, including Isla de Margarita. For anyone curious, a tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within the warning area within 24 hours. And a tropical storm watch is in effect for the ABC Islands, which are Bonaire, Curacao, and Aruba. And a tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible within the watch area and generally within 36 to 48 hours. So that's for Bret. For PTC3, likely soon to be Tropical Storm Cindy, a tropical storm warning is in effect for Intracoastal City to the mouth of the Pearl River in Louisiana. A tropical storm watch is in effect for west of Intracoastal City, Louisiana to High Island, Texas. And again, tropical storm warning, conditions likely within 24 hours. Watch means that conditions are possible within 36 to 48 hours. So those are the warnings in effect for both systems right now. Next advisory from the NHC should be coming out next hour. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, about an hour and a half for that. When the next full updates come out from the National Hurricane Center. That's usually, not always, but usually when you see any wind changes. And sometimes the warnings will change as well, but they're just as likely to be intermediate advisories too. Do you think any warnings will be extended? I think they're just fine as they are right now, aren't they?
Possibly something for PTC3.
Really?
But apart from that, well, actually, never mind. It's too far away. Once this thing, probably tomorrow, maybe this tropical storm watch will be actually granted a warning.
Yeah.
So,
and myself and John were talking about this cone earlier, Hank, that you're looking at and we're looking at. Don't you think it's a little bit narrow?
Well, what do you mean by narrow?
Well, don't you think there's a bit more uncertainty than that?
They're not. The thing with the National Hurricane Center cone is that their cones don't express the actual uncertainty with storms.
Of course. Well, it would span the whole world, wouldn't it then?
No. What I mean is what the possible legitimate realistic scenarios are. Good example of that was Joaquin.
you'll probably know this, but am I right in saying that the National Hurricane Center cones use the 66% chance or something like that?
I believe it's a 70% chance, but
it is 70 for the JMA in Japan. I'd imagine it'd be similar.
Well, their cones are quite. Their cones are. Oh, sorry, that's JTWC. Never mind. I was about to say their cones are quite huge, so
the
that must mean they
JTWC one certainly.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was JTWC, but this I think it's just because that the overall their certainty has increased with their track forecasts. So they've every year they code it, so they shrink their cones ever so slightly each year.
Well, if they're doing a good job.
Well, yeah,
it's called marketing.
Sure, and they can't really expand it if you have a higher than normal uncertainty. Good example of that was Joaquin. You had a very thin cone compared to the actual amount of uncertainty. So it could have gone anywhere from, say, South Carolina to east of Bermuda, and the cone only was, in between Hatteras and Bermuda. So you can't really do much about that because that's just not how the whole thing is coded. So, and sometimes the cones may actually be a little bit too big because there's really good certainty. So they might even be a little bit too big sometimes.
Yeah,
so that's also
they are sort of case by case, aren't they?
Each one has to be equally as thick. So, and they all go off some sort of climatology. It's confusing. I don't want to get into it.
Well, let's get into Bret again because the flare-up is continuing to grow on that, and pretty inclement conditions. They're already being felt, but it's the worst part of this storm is about to impact southeastern and eastern Trinidad.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by it's really beginning to blow up a lot.
There's a significant band also out towards the north too, heading somewhat towards St. Vincent.
Yeah, it looks like the core of it's gonna move in between St. Vincent and Grenada. So that's one of the possibility. Yeah, the Grenadines, that's correct.
Lots of little islands there indeed.
So that's also something to look out for, but Trinidad looks to be getting the worst of it right now.
And some real thunderstorms being generated over Venezuela as well inland.
Well, that's partially aided by the diurnal heating. So that could be due to, diurnal heating, that's basically a fancy word for the daytime thunderstorms that just erupt during the heating of the afternoon. It's being aided probably significantly by that. So that is probably a feature that is temporary. It might go away. Because notice how it really blows up right as all these other little thunderstorms blow up. You see that? So that's probably something that's probably going to fade away. It might not, but it's just something that I think is probably going to, happen.
I mean, looking at this imagery, Bret looks like it has substantially improved from its standing earlier today. It appears.
It did look for a time as though it was just fading away, but this new convective burst has put it back in whatever it is.
The game. Back in the game.
Yeah, I didn't want to really make a gaming reference, but yes.
It's alright.
But there it is right now, approaching land, and as soon as we get a new radar picture for you, we'll bring that up. I'm just going to check again here now. No, nothing new yet. I think the next one, they're at 13-minute intervals or something like that, so the next one should be out at any time.
Okay.
But if you have any questions for us, if you want to know what to expect in your neck of the woods, we can do our very best to try and triangulate your area and see what we can say about that. Some personalised responses, perhaps. We're happy to do that. We did that during Hurricane Matthew, of course, pretty much all the time. And some people aren't very happy that 93L has not become a named storm yet.
Well, unfortunately, I think your luck's going to run out pretty soon because it's looking rather impressive. Better send some than some other tropical storms we've had recently. You all probably know what storm I'm talking about, so I'm not going to go any further. And it's just, I mean, this thing should be named pretty soon. I would not. I mean, it's hard to say if is Recon still in it right now. Let me.
I highly doubt.
Nope.
I don't think they'd still be in it. When was this from? Nope. Oh yeah, no, that's a training mission. They are out. Yeah, so this is what they found. So they got a center fix down. They got a center fix down here, but they got two others, or three others actually. So this whole thing is basically going to be labeled a giant mess.
So they got four. They got 4 vortices then.
They got they would get 4 vertices. I was saying they got 3 other non-central vertices.
Yeah,
so this is
just a mess.
I mean, but if you look at it from a broader scale, I mean, you do have the what do you call these? The southerlies, and you have the northerlies on the western eastern side, respectively. So that's the main thing you really need to get a storm to organize. And you also see that this part right here is not flowing, especially right here, it's not flowing from west to east. This part right here is. It has nothing to do with the strength of the winds, though. It just has to do with the strength of the central core, which is not all that healthy right now.
Yeah, it's as best termed as many people put it, a giant mess.
Yeah. So
it's your typical June mess.
Yeah, I mean, people are. My mom asked me earlier today. We were just having dinner, and she asked me she heard about this thing. It's and I told her I think it's becoming a storm pretty soon, and she asked why does it look just so messy, and I was like, well, it's typical. And
even the layman can see how messy it looks.
Yeah, but she also asked me this interesting question.
Yes.
Why do you think there's always so much of this wind shear you're talking about? And the best answer I could think of was that you're still coming out of the winter time, and you're still trying to come out of all of the spring activity up north, and that's just continuing the shear patterns. And once you get in later in the season, you get more summer patterns, which includes less shear over the basin as a whole.
Yes.
And
that was a interesting question.
There is a shear-related question that just came in there. What would it take for that shear to die down, thus altering the storm's course? Well, I'm not sure it would necessarily do that, and attributing to further intensification, which it probably would do.
Well, that would mean that this... One second, let me get the right floater. That's the wrong floater. That means that this upper level low right here would have to completely collapse and fade away. So that means all of this shear coming in off of Mexico and into the Gulf of Mexico would all have to die away, and this storm would actually get a chance to intensify further. Right now, the NHC only thinks 45 miles an hour as a peak. I personally think it's going to get stronger than that, but only time will tell. This thing is probably going to be very broad.
Where is that other low going to go?
This is going to back off to the west as well, and that's because of this trough right here in response. It's going to pull this towards the west into Texas, in the southern Texas, and it is also going to bring along with it this O3L, PTC, Cindy, whatever you want to call this thing, towards the west along with it. Then this is going to continue west and then dissipate over the mountains of Mexico. As a result, this will have no choice but to move northwest in response to this ridge that will build into Texas, is building into Texas, and then shoot off towards. And that ridge right here will interact with this trough, and which will bring the storm towards the north and eventually northeast out into open United States and just dissipate.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
it's gonna do a little zigzag, is what you're saying. The storm.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Isaac, did you?
I just wanted to butt in for 2 seconds here. You could go back on your rant if you want to after this, but I found a live camera over in Trinidad
Oh,
and
you
it's a
did.
pretty good quality cam, and it shows the current conditions over there, and it's pretty rainy over there.
Okay.
Not that bad right now, but just rainy.
Okay,
Do you
can you
know?
send
That's what they're all.
Do you know which part
I sent it.
of Trinidad that is? East side,
Southwest,
west side, southwest.
portion. Yeah. So whatever that's.
Well,
Yeah.
the center could pass very close to there.
I just linked it to you on chat if you want to pull it up.
Well, me personally, I'm certainly unable to bring that up, but if anyone else would like
Oh.
to do so, they sure can. But
I'll just have to kill. Sure.
we're still looking at the radar imagery. Let's see if there's any new pictures that are out. We're just looking for them, but there's still no new pictures out yet. So we're left with what we saw something like 23 minutes ago is the latest picture. Now, here's a live shot of what's going on. Apparently, Queen's Park Savannah southwest. Obviously, I'm unfamiliar with the area, so if anyone does know where that is, and just confirm for us if that is on the southwest part of the island, or if they're just referring to southwest something else. But regardless, it's going to be pretty bad in some parts of Trinidad and Tobago throughout the rest of tonight. And of course, it's gone off to buffering. Wonderful. But throughout the rest of tonight, of course, we'll probably see some tropical storm conditions, heavy rainfall, though we don't expect it's going to be particularly torrential. 4, maybe 5 inches in some areas as a maximum, and that's probably going to be about right, really, isn't it, given how you look at the radar. It's not particularly heavy, it's rather small a system, so it's not going to be lingering for too long. It will probably be gone by noon tomorrow at the latest, you'd say?
No. Are you talking about effects in Trinidad or the storm as a whole?
The effects in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the storm as a whole.
No, not as a whole.
Yeah. The conditions will start to improve by tomorrow morning, and it'll probably clear out completely by. Let's think about this. Probably around. Are you talking about noon UTC?
A local time.
Okay. Probably around that time. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, but it's.
That webcam, by the way, is in Port of Spain, the capital. That's on the western coast, the northwestern side, actually.
Okay, so this is on the exact opposite side.
The exact opposite side, yes.
Yes,
Wow.
We're now joined by Marcel. Hello, Marcel. How are you?
I am fine.
You're joining us from Colombia, which borders Venezuela, under a tropical storm warning. What are your thoughts on Bret?
I think it is a low and tropical storm, but I think it could be a serious threat for Venezuela because of the rain.
And Venezuela has had issues with rainfall in the past, not even tropical storms per se. And did they have anything for Matthew?
No.
No.
Matthew is mostly for Colombia.
A little bit too far away for Venezuela.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Mostly the effects of Matthew were in the Guajira Peninsula.
Yes.
Which is that's the northern peninsula of Colombia, correct?
And yes, Venezuela has had things with rainfall. We need to remember the Vargas State landslides in 1999.
That's right. I did research on that one not so long ago, and I hadn't heard of it beforehand. And I want to bring up some questions now from some of the viewers as well. Some people are a little bit perplexed. What the sort of question that a few people are culminating in asking is, what is the reasoning for 3L not being a named storm?
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
It's NHC's fun terminology for this new thing that they're doing this year called a potential tropical cyclone. Basically, what that is an area of interest or invest that the NHC thinks has the potential to become a tropical cyclone and will threaten land in the near future to the point where tropical storm watches or warnings are necessary, where the government of the respective areas where the storm will hit thinks it will be necessary. And now, I think it's a neat idea, but I think it's being executed quite poorly because they're designating them the same as they're designating tropical depressions. Like, for example, with Bret, they designated it 2L, which is the same that you would call a tropical depression.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem.
Because reality, it was not a tropical cyclone because it supposedly did not have a close center. Personally, I think it did, but that's besides the point. Now that's a similar situation here. They're calling it O3L, and it's not a tropical depression because it does not have a close center. To that, I can attest to. For how long that'll last, I'm not going to say. But it's something that I think needs to be re-examined on how they name it. It's a good idea. I don't blame them for using it. It's not a very good execution.
Hank, would you suggest instead that they use the invest number tag instead of the whatever tag they name storms with?
I came to the conclusion earlier that wouldn't work because if you had two invests of the same number in the same year that gets this potential designation, then you'll have duplicates.
Well, then you name one 92. Say 97LA or 97L.
Hank, why not they name them in the 80s instead, like potential cyclone?
Oh goodness!
81?
Well, that's supposed to be the testing.
No,
we're getting too technical here. Let's go on to another question. This is a general question. What are your predictions for the Atlantic hurricane season? That conversation could last a while.
Yeah.
Shall we just leave that? Shall we just leave that parked, or do you want to have a crack at it?
Let's just say above normal.
And it could be significantly above normal, but I mean, you want to see my thoughts on it? Go back in this live stream or previous live streams after you're finished watching this one.
I think there's some
or go see Hank's video.
Okay.
We discussed this at length on the countdown to the Atlantic hurricane season back on May 31st.
Do you think it's going to be 2005 like?
No, it's not. No, it's not going to be like 2005 because
I was talking
that year had many other things.
No, I'm only saying that's what I think. I think wrong. But I'm just
I don't think it's going to be like 2005.
Is moving further away as an analog. Too many voices, by the way. Let's hear Marcel.
Oh, sorry.
I think 2005 was unique.
Okay. Well, that is a very apt thing to say.
Well, the thing with 2005 was that it had a lot of things going for it that this year will not have going for it. And it was... That year blew up for reasons that are very synoptical. For one, it had very low overall pressure in both the main development and especially in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. This year and the shear also was near record low values. This year is different. It does not have record low values of shear or record low values of overall pressure. This year does have a warmer main development region, but that's probably not going to make it a 2005 like season because 2005 also had a classic positive AMO and a classic negative PDO and a classic one thing that it did not have going for it is that it did not have a La Nina. That's the only negative factor I could think of going into that season. And rightfully so, the season blew up to something we will probably not see for many decades to come.
All right.
So I doubt a 2005 is going to happen again.
I know you guys all want to chip in, but I want to speed this up a little bit, if I may. Does Invest 93L have any chance of intensifying further, or will it stay as is?
That depends on if it gets consolidated or not.
It probably will. I can't see how it could.
Yeah, me too. And Martinez says, what's different from potential tropical cyclone to a tropical depression? No one
not
gets
close
it.
circulation.
One has a
I don't blame you for not getting it,
tropical
by the way.
cyclone is as a tropical disturbance.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't blame people for not getting their head around this. It's
Why
confusing.
don't you just call it tropical disturbance?
Well, yeah.
I mean, why not?
Force 13 uses our own numbering system, by the way. What became Bret was known as A6, and what might become Cindy is known as B6. The reasoning for that, the 6 indicates the month of the year, and A and B being the sequence. And I think that works pretty well anyway.
Yeah, because I don't think we're going to have 26 storms in a month in one particular
That's
basin.
exactly it, isn't it? There's not going to be 26 storms in a month. I think there might be another question.
Oh wait, was Arlene A4 then?
Sorry?
Was Arlene A4?
Yeah, it would have been, but we didn't actually do Sue's for that one.
Because it was a surprise.
No,
Well,
I think
and it
it's
was
just... Yeah, anyway, let's...
It was an early season present, before season even started.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else going on right now, but obviously you can see the satellite imagery here on your screen. We go through it the whole time. The radar indications, a new frame did come through not long ago, and you can see the latest there. It's now, I would suggest that the center of this storm is now only something like, 10, 12 miles away from the closest point of land. Whether it will make landfall at the closest point of land remains to be seen, but looks like the southeastern part of Trinidad. Marcel, I think you were cut off at one point. Did you have something to say before?
So I think this storm will bring some rainfall to the states of Monagas, Nueva Esparta, and Sucre, Venezuela.
In Venezuela, yes. How quickly do you think it will... who's tapping? How quickly do you think it will dissipate?
I think...
Or is that typing? Some aggressive typing going on.
That's me.
Yes.
When Sorry,
I was typing.
Caribbean.
Do you think it will survive another... Well, what the NHC is saying, 36 hours or less?
I think this storm will die when it approaches like Colombia or something.
It won't get that far.
Because of the very high shear.
Indeed. And I think this probably will be the well, there's a few more questions yet. Last questions of the hour. Not probably a rhetorical question. Am I the only one who thinks 93L looks like Colin? We've had that before.
Oh my god!
Oh, John. Stop it. Dramatic over there.
No,
Yes.
No Collins.
And what is a subtropical cyclone any different from an extratropical cyclone? Who wants to be the person who explains a subtropical cyclone?
Compared to an extratropical cyclone?
Yes. Well, compared to anything.
Tropical cyclone has tropical characteristics and extratropical characteristics.
It's basically your typical let's just say, no, that's horrible, ignore that. Your extratropical cyclone essentially is you're taking some elements of a tropical entity and some elements of an extratropical entity, mashing them together, it doesn't have fronts, the core is warming, and usually your winds are not too close to the center of circulation, but it's closer than an extratropical cyclone. Or, as we know, wave cyclones. So your typical L's you see on your weather maps on the news is your extratropical cyclones, usually.
Indeed. I don't know if anyone in the room right now has anything to add before we wrap up yet another hour of coverage here on Tropical Storm Bret and the Gulf of Mexico system.
Hopefully we don't have a Colin 2.0.
I realize that I had been muted this entire time, so I'm that. But what I was saying was that another difference between tropical and subtropical is that one, that subtropical storms gain their energy from atmospheric and oceanic influences, while tropical cyclones get all their energy from oceanic influences.
Yep. And David, did you want to say something?
Yep.
Over there somewhere.
Sorry, when's the last time we've seen a tropical system in the Eastern Caribbean for mid-June?
Never.
That's an interesting question.
None in mid-June. I think in late June there has been, not mid-June.
We'll check out. We'll check out that fact.
Who was Anna? And I wouldn't really call this mid-June either. I call this. I don't even know what I call it.
Late June.
Mid-late June.
Who knows?
There you go. Just combine things together. Mash them up. I'm going to think for a second. I was thinking. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, you've lost your train of thought. John's train is derailed, and the stream is in danger of derailing. If you've got any more questions for us, do send them in. We're going to finish up for this hour. We're not finishing the stream, don't worry. We'll be back again in another 5 minutes with another hour, 6th hour, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, of live streaming, and we will continue to bring you the updates as the storm moves ever closer to Trinidad. We expect that the landfall on Trinidad will occur within the hour that's yet to come, and at the end of that hour, of course, we'll have the latest update from the National Hurricane Center as they issue their latest advisories. Stay tuned.
Before you go,
yes.
National Weather Service, Eastern Region, disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico, expected to become Tropical Cyclone Cindy by Tuesday evening. Tropical storm watchers.
I think it could be sooner than that, though. We'll talk more about it shortly.
Okay.
There's the view from Force 13 HQ. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yes, you can't see anything. It's the middle of the night. We'll also have some views, hopefully, from Trinidad and Tobago as well, and maybe some other locations too. Keep your reports coming in. We value them very much, of course, and we'll keep you up to date as best we can over the course of the next hour and beyond. Stay tuned. Continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.co.uk at your service at any time. You can also find us on YouTube, the channel, search Force 13, all in text, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find us on Facebook at Force 13, and it's at Force 13 on Twitter, that's the handle to contact us there. You can also add Fool13 on Skype, that's FOOL13, and add extension 9094 on Discord for Tropical Weather Chat.